Welcome back to Origami Snowman. My name is Matt. I'm going to talk today about books to movies. How it can go right, how it can go wrong. Good idea, bad idea. I mentioned earlier in an earlier video, Dune. It's a classic. People love it. It's almost a religion for some people, the way they study it. The book is heavy. It's hard to approach. The movies have made it very accessible. A good doorway into a much deeper world. A wonderful introduction. And that's what a book made into a movie can be. One of my favorite novels and one of my favorite movies, Fight Club. That's an interesting one to start with. I wish I had it. I was gonna hold it up and you'd see but I forgot. It's sitting over there and I pushed record already, so there's no point in me, going over and grabbing it. The movie is approachable in a way that the book isn't. A friend of mine just read Fight Club for the first time. He knew nothing about it. He went into it blind, which is a great way to do it. And he was confused. He was having a really hard time with the writing style. It's very disjointed. It bounces all around. It's very frenetic. It's hard to follow and it's exhausting to read because the main character suffers from insomnia and he is always kind of on the verge of a breakdown. As you're reading it, you kind of feel like him. That's not enjoyable for some people. The movie kind of softens that edge and it makes the story more of the focus instead of like the symptoms that the main character is going through. The ending of the movie and the ending of the book, they're somewhat different. And I'm a big fan of both. And I would say if you liked one, pursue the other. If you love the book, watch the movie. If you love the movie, watch the book. It won't ruin one way or the other. Here's a book that I didn't read until I was an adult. And when I finally read it, I read it in a single sitting. And I absolutely loved it. In fact, I loved it so much that I started reading it again. It literally turned right back to page 1. Holes by Louis Sachar? Football. Louis Football wrote an amazing book. He writes all sorts of amazing books, but Holes. If you've never read Holes, you definitely should read it. It's an incredible children's story. It's so good. It is so exciting. I don't want to say it's a mystery, but it's a bit of a riddle. And you don't realize that until the end. And you're like, of course. It's hard sometimes to get a kid to read a book. It can be. I hear that a lot. People are like, I can't get my kid to read. This is one of those stories that, hey, have them watch the movie. And if they really like the movie, how could they not? Then they'll love the book. Treasure Island, another children's book. If you've never read Treasure Island, it's hard. It's a hard read because it is written in a very old vernacular. It's a lot of piratey speak. In fact, the way we imagine pirates talking today came from this book. Robert Louis Stevenson, he came up with this story when he and his stepson were drawing fantasy maps. They drew an island and he started writing stories about it. It's so exciting. Long John Silver is such an interesting character. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he going to kill Jim? Is he going to save Jim? Is he just out for himself? Or is he kind of like winking? Can he be trusted? We don't know. He's like an evil Willy Wonka. You just don't know if you can trust him. And he is so much fun. This whole book is so interesting and it's so bloodthirsty. Like from page 1, you're like, oh, some people are gonna die. They're going to die. Poor Jim finds himself in this adventure that, yes, he asked for. Yes, he started, but boy, did it go bad almost immediately. And it's so good. But I've never seen a movie get it right. Even the Muppets didn't get it right. This book is so much more bloody and more violent than they would ever put on screen. Read the book. If you like the story, read the book, but be prepared. Very much like Tarzan was. I mentioned that in an earlier video. It is gory. It is violent. It is jarring. It pulls no punches. It is not gentle. People are murdered. And you get to see it all. It's great. But the movies just didn't get it right. The movies made it seem like a Disney ride. Another book that I loved that the movie was just terrible, Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. The story of two fairly old, skinny, fairly old white men in a world that was dying fast. I think that's the opening line from this book. I've mentioned it in an earlier video. I'm referencing a lot of my earlier videos. Go back and watch them. This movie was terrible. It did not understand the joy of this book. It didn't understand the voyeurism that is involved. You never feel tense. You never feel in danger. A lot of books are really good at doing that, at bringing you in, making you feel the anxiety of the characters. This book, it's not trying to do that. It doesn't want to do that. It wants to remind you that you're reading a book. Never forget, it's just a book. In fact, at one point, Vonnegut starts talking to you, the reader, as if you've never been on Earth before and you need some things explained. So he starts explaining things as if he was talking to an alien. And sometimes he'll draw pictures of things with a felt tip marker in these really hilarious illustrations spotted throughout the book. It's great. Read the book. The movie, unnecessary. It was awful. It ruined. If you saw the movie and you're like, that's stupid, you're right. It was stupid. Read the book. The book was great. So there we've got a couple of examples of, yeah, the movie was awesome. The book was awesome. And a couple examples of the book was awesome. The movie was terrible. Now, this is a book that you may or may not have heard of. It's not super popular. It was super good. It's kind of a funny story. That's the name of the book, by Ned Vizzini. He wrote this book after his, oh yeah, there's a price tag right on the cover. I don't usually take those off if I can help it. He wrote this book after his experience being checked into a hospital for depression. He was a suicide risk, and he got checked in. He got the help he needed, and he wrote this after his experience with all the other people in that hospital. And so this is semi-autobiographical. After this book was published, he did end up succumbing to his mental illness, and he did take his own life. So it is an extremely tragic story if you know how his story ended. But it is a really uplifting story. It's full of hope. I loved it. I love this story. I didn't read it until after I saw the movie. And I love the movie too. The movie is terrific. It's very much a watered down version of this. So another gateway movie into the source material. But it's another way where the book and the movie can really pair up to deliver an amazing, amazing product. And finally, this is kind of a back and forth, maybe, yeah, no kind of moment, okay? I love The Lord of the Rings. I love all of it. It's so fun. I have some friends who do not love The Lord of the Rings, the novels. They like the movies, but the novels, they're like, I've heard as much as I need to about that tree. Can we please move on? It's wordy. It's heavy. This is a writer who is in love with writing. He writes as if he is literally there. I was holding up the Return of the King when really I should have been facing with Fellowship. I'm so sorry. You can cancel me. Tolkien was a writer who was in love with words. He loved to write. He loved describing his world, and he loved to describe it from the point of view of his characters. His characters being hobbits who loved food, they loved song, they loved nature. So yes, the man is going to talk for a while about a tree. The movies, they do a very good job of trimming, we'll say trimming the fat, okay? You're getting the light version of The Lord of the Rings if you watch the movies. They are amazing. They're so good. There are some purists who won't even look at the movies. They won't watch them at all. They want nothing to do with it. They have images in their head of Strider. They have images in their head of Frodo. They know what Gandalf looks like. They know what Legolas and Gimli and Merry and Pippin and Sam and Gollum, they know what they look like. They do not want some on-screen depiction ruining that for them. So that's fine. You don't have to watch these movies. But if you did, you would not be missing out. They're incredible. Yes, they are, like I said, the light version, but they're very acceptable substitutes. If you don't have a lot of time to read some very wordy books, that's fine. Watch the movies. If you want the story, that's a great way to get it. However, when it comes to The Hobbit, do not watch the movies. They are not good. If you've never read the book and you watch the movies, you are getting such a strange account of this story. It is, it's the frat boy version of The Hobbit. You know, The Hobbit is about the least likely of all heroes trying so hard to keep up with the boys and failing at every turn, but somehow still coming out the other end the hero. Not only does he have no idea how any of it happened, he doesn't care that it happened. He's like, can we be done now, please? That was horrible. That was awful. I don't want to relive this. I just want to go home. From the minute he leaves Bag End, Bilbo Baggins just wants to go home. In the movie, they kind of make it into like a war tale, like, hey, take up your arms and follow me. And yeah, there's some of that in the book when he gets to a point where there's no turning back and he has no choice but to go with his friends into battle. But that's not the point of the book. That's not the tone of the book. The tone of the book is, please, can we go home? You don't really get that so much in the book or in the movie. It was a CGI cash grab and it wasn't great. So that is an example of how a book to movie scenario can go very wrong, and it did. But The Lord of the Rings, great. The Hobbit, not great. It's kind of a funny story, great movie. Breakfast of Champions, not great. Dune, great. It needed a movie, I think. It needed a movie. Holes, the movie's fine. The movie's okay. Treasure Island, not great. They just miss out on what makes it great. And one day they'll make a rated R version of Treasure Island, and it will be horrible and bloody and violent, and it will give children nightmares, and that is precisely what it should do. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm a little passionate about old children's novels. I'll shut up now. You guys are amazing and wonderful. Thank you so much for watching my video. And if you have any other thoughts on books to movies, or if you're like, no, The Hobbit was amazing, you're an idiot, definitely let me know in the comments. That will help the algorithm push my videos to other people who disagree with me. So thank you so much for watching. I love you guys to pieces, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.